Okay, I'm recording. Now, just keep pen and paper because we'll write few structures. Not many, but few structures. Interesting structures.
Okay.
Okay. Now, now we finished till the properties of amino acids, and we finished the classification of proteins also. We finished classification of proteins based on shape and structure, based on composition, based on biological function. So we finished everything. So we know about that now. Now we are going to study the structure of proteins. Actually, how does the proteins look? Structure of proteins. Actually, structure of proteins is little complicated. Okay. Okay, both of you are on this one only then. Okay, so if you get any doubt, you stop me. Otherwise, I'll just continue. Okay. Now, structure of proteins. As I told you, proteins have a three-dimensional structure, which is quite complicated. Okay. So we will split it and see how it looks like. Okay. Now, I will just give you one analogy and then I'll tell you how it looks like. Okay, then you can understand the structure properly. So actually you can study structure of proteins under four headings: primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structure, and quaternary structure. Okay, structure of proteins you can study under they will have first primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. I will just give you an analogy and then explain how this works. See, if you have, imagine you have hair loss. Okay? You imagine you have a big bunch of hair falling. Okay? Now what we do is, I take that the whole bunch of hair, whatever has fallen, some shape it has fallen. Imagine it is to be almost like spherical. Okay, that is the quaternary structure. Now what I do, I try to open it up. When I try to open it up, I will get two pieces of still complicated structures. Okay, that is the tertiary structure. That is the tertiary structure. Now what I do, I will try to open it up still. Then I will see that two or three strands together, they have coiled and you can see them 2 3 like that. That will be secondary structure. And if I still open it up completely, I can see each strand. Okay, that each strand I cannot see it in the quaternary structure. It is so coiled that you don't know where the ending, where the starting. Okay, like that it will be. So that is the primary structure. This is the best analogy to know the structure of proteins. So you will have one strand of hair, that is the primary structure. Okay, now I'll tell you. Now what I do, I take that one strand, it will coil. That is the secondary structure. Now that chains will again coil. That will be the tertiary structure. And tertiary structure, that protein, they will again coil. That will give you the quaternary structure. Exactly like that, how the bunch of hair looks like. Keep separating them. First you make it into two. Then take one piece and again separate it. And then take a small piece, again separate it. Finally you get one strand. That exactly looks like the protein. So proteins, first we'll start with the primary structure. Primary structure is like one strand, one hair strand. So if you know the primary structure, you will actually know the proper amino acid sequence. You you will know the amino acid sequence in the primary structure. The actual arrangement of the sequence of amino acid will give you the primary structure. That is a polynucleotide chain. Whatever chain you get, that will give you the primary structure. Okay. Now, primary structure, after primary structure, now I told you how we arrived it at. I told you in derived proteins. What did I tell you? Derived proteins and hydrolysis will give you proteoses, then peptones, then polypeptides, then simple peptides, and then they will break you giving alpha amino acids. So you have to keep on hydrolyzing it. You get proteoses means 2 subunits. Then peptones means another subunits of subunits. Then you get polypeptides. Then you will get simple peptides, and then you break down, see the amino acid, alpha amino acid. So that sequence, finding out that sequence is the primary structure. And that is very, very important. Even one amino acid changes in that particular sequence, you will get a different protein altogether. That sequence is very important. Or it will be, if something goes wrong in the amino acid change, it will become a malfunctioned amino acid protein. It cannot have its biological function properly. So that will be the primary structure. First primary structure was deduced, the structure of insulin. Insulin has got 2 chains, one with 21 amino acids, another with 30. 51 amino acids it has. And it is linked by disulfide linkages. Disulfide, 2 sulfur between cysteine amino acid cysteine has got sulfur. By the way, did you practice the structure of amino acids? Did you learn the structures of 20 amino acids?
Yes, Auntie. I did some.
You did. Abhik was, I think he was absent on the day. Need a recap. Okay, but you have learned. Cysteine has got, I told you, CM, chief minister. Cysteine and methionine, they have sulfur. Okay, so they are linked by disulfide linkages in insulin. Okay, so that determination you call it as the primary structure. Now, okay, now we have learned the primary structure. Now, coming to secondary structure. This will give you the actual sequence of the amino acid. Actual sequence of the amino acid. Now, what happens is that you know that they have got amide linkages. Amide linkages, if you can see, if you can delocalize, nitrogen has got a lone pair of electron, you will have like this. That is, there is a double bond between carbon and nitrogen, which makes the rotation around that impossible. It is not possible to rotate. So when you don't rotate, it will show geometric isomerism. Okay, so if it doesn't rotate around double bond, always you get geometric, cis and trans. And trans is always stable. Trans is stable. This will be trans. If I put up, this will be trans because R dash and H. This will be cis. This will be cis, and there will be steric hindrance. This will not be stable. So this will be more stable. They will have the trans form. Okay. So what happens is that, see, because of this delocalization, there will be a double bond throughout from oxygen, carbon and nitrogen. Okay. Now because of that, what happens is that it can rotate around this bond. You can have conformations. There is so many things. This is pi angle, psi angle, Ramachandran angles they call it, and you can rotate around this angle. Don't worry about the conformation. Just know that trans isomer is more stable. Trans isomer means hydrogen of the amine and R of the R group of the next amino acid, they are together. They are on one side, same side. Now what happens? Now primary structure will give you the actual sequence. Now coming to secondary structure. Now secondary structure arises due to intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Due to intermolecular hydrogen bonding, the secondary structure arises as a result of the hydrogen bonding. Now what happens as a result of the hydrogen bonding is that, see, it depends on, because of the hydrogen bonding, secondary structure are of two types. I'll explain that. There are two types. One, alpha helix structure. Two, beta pleated structure. What do you mean by alpha helix structure? If the R group size is large, then you know all the amino acids. R group size is large, it will rotate. See, carbonyl carbon of one amino acid will form hydrogen bond with hydrogen of the fourth amino acid, every fourth amino acid. So it will be like this coil. If you say that this is the angle of rotation, it will coil like this in the alpha direction. So for every fourth amino acid there will be a turn. Actually it is 3.6. It is called as alpha 3.6 helix. So in fact, if you count the number of the members in the ring, it will be 13 members. It will be a 13 membered ring. So for every curve like this, for every curve, the hydrogen bonding will be there. Every curve it will happen after 3.6 amino acids. So this will happen. This is the example for this is alpha keratin protein. Alpha keratin has alpha helix structure. What is the consequence of this? Alpha keratin is present in hair, nails, skin of human beings, mammals. Beta keratin is present in reptiles and birds. That is beta pleated structure. That is why it is called as beta keratin. Alpha keratin is present in human beings. Okay, so hair, because of that, you know that hair can be stretched. Hair strand can be elastic. When you stretch it, what happens is that the hydrogen bonds, it will get uncoiled. But you cannot stretch it too much. If you stretch it too much, it will break. Hair will break if you stretch it too much. But if you remove the stretched force, again it will coil. It will get the hydrogen bonding back. So this is observed in alpha keratin. Okay, hairs of this one. Because of that helix structure, hair has got that elastic property. Little bit. Not much, but little elastic. Hair strand won't break immediately. You can stretch it little bit. Okay, because of that. That is alpha helix structure. Now, what is beta pleated structure? Beta pleated structure is observed in, as I told you, in hairs, nails, claws of reptiles and birds. Okay, here what happens is that this polypeptide chain will be there. Polypeptide chain will be there. They will follow a zigzag manner. They will arrange in a zigzag manner like this. Polypeptide chain. Okay, there are two types of beta pleated. So what happens is that N terminal of one and N terminal of another can lie on the same side. They can align on the same side like this. One type. This is one type. Now this, like this, they will align. They will form a sheet. Like our, you remember solid state, we showed one dimensional packing, two dimensional, three dimensional, like that. This is one dimensional. Then one over the other, they will form hydrogen bonding. I'll show you how it occurs. Okay, so hydrogen bonding will be there. So then what happens? One sheet like this, it will stack on one another. It looks like in 3 dimension. It looks like the pleats of a drapery, sari pleats. That is why it is called as the beta pleated structure. Okay, so it can occur like this. So this can occur in 2 ways. Okay, this can occur in 2 ways. That is, n terminal can align in the same way. This is called as parallel. Or it can align like one like this and another like this. This is called anti-parallel. N terminal and C terminal, they will align along the same side. Then this will be anti-parallel. This is observed in silk protein, fibroin, and this is observed in beta keratin. Okay, you will have hydrogen bonds like this. Like this. Okay, so this will be like this, like this, like this, like this. You can see the hydrogen bonding between the chain. So this actual sequence, amino acid sequence will give you the primary structure, and this will be the secondary structure. This will give you the secondary structure. So this secondary structure, it occurs due to hydrogen bonding. Occurs due to hydrogen bonding. Now coming to tertiary structure. Now what happens is that these secondary structure will further coil around themselves to give almost like a spherical shape. Okay, now how do they coil? The coil depends on four forces. One, hydrogen bonding, another disulfide linkages, 3, van der Waals attraction, and 4th, interionic attraction. They carry charges, and all these, this is an important question. Okay, because of all these 3, they will get the tertiary structure. That is, secondary structure will further coil to give a particular shape. That particular shape it will assume which is at that particular pH and temperature, which is energetically most stable. That will it will acquire that shape. Okay, energetically most stable it will acquire. Okay, now the tertiary structure, each protein has got a specific shape at that particular pH. That is why it is called as a native protein. It is called as native protein. Now, the tertiary structure is of 2 types. 1, fibrous protein. 2, globular protein. See, what happens is that, like if you have alpha helix or beta pleated, sometimes in certain proteins you will have the same alpha helix structure throughout. Some proteins you sometimes what happens in the secondary structure, you will find some portion will have alpha helix, some portion beta pleated, some portion without any structure. That is called as random coil structure, without any structure. So even in a single protein you may have all these together, or you may not have, some portion may not have the structure, any structure at all, just one chain it will have, like that. That is called as random coil. So now only when you split it and see, you will know what exactly how they are done, how they actually exist. That is why these structures are very important. Okay, tertiary structure is of 2 types. 1, fibrous and globular. In fibrous protein, this alpha helix or beta pleated structure, they again coil in the form of a rod like this, rod like or rope like. You can see, you have seen the ropes, okay, how they are wound, okay, that it will have. And fibrous proteins are, as I told you, insoluble in water. They are resistant to temperature and pH. Okay, it will form like this. This is fibrous protein found in hairs and nails. Now, globular protein, the secondary structure will coil depending on all these forces. Depending on all these forces, it will coil in such a way that to give a spheroidal shape, spherical shape. Okay, and globular protein will coil in such a way that, as I told you, water soluble part will be outside, water insoluble part will be inside. That is why it can interact with water and it becomes soluble. And it is quite sensitive. Globular proteins are quite sensitive. So, this is the tertiary structure. Tertiary structure means again coiling of the secondary structure. Again coiling of the secondary structure will give you the tertiary structure. Okay. So, in the, as I told you, the globular proteins, some may be alpha helix, some portion random coil, some portion beta plate. It's a mixture. How it is done, to know that you have to split it and see. That's all. You will have to split it to small pieces and see. So, this is tertiary structure. Now, coming to quaternary structure. Quaternary structure, it will have many polypeptide units. That is, as I told you, two separate groups of hair. That means it will have subunits. They are called as protomers. It will have subunits or protomers. It will have two or more polypeptide chains called subunits or protomers. Determination of quaternary structure means you should know how many subunits are there and how they are arranged in space. That is spatial arrangement of them. Best example is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, it has got actually 4 subunits. Hemoglobin has got 4 subunits. 2 identical alpha chains, 141 amino acids. 2 identical beta chains. This is important. You should know this. Hemoglobin has 4 subunits, out of which 2 subunits are identical with 141 amino acids and 2 subunits are beta chains with 146 amino acids. Each has got a iron complex at the one end and they will assume the shape of a tetrahedron. All the 4 of them assume the shape of a regular tetrahedron. So, quaternary structure means you should know how many subunits are there and how the subunits are arranged in space. That is quaternary structure. So, tertiary structure, what is tertiary structure? How the secondary structures are again coiled. Whether they are forming rope-like, rod-like or they are forming spherical. That is the tertiary structure. Now, secondary structure, how, if you split this, how each coil is arranged. Whether it is forming alpha helix or it is forming beta pleated, parallel or anti-parallel. How it is done. That is the secondary structure. If you open that secondary structure, each strand, what is the sequence of amino acid, that will give you the primary structure. Understood? Yes. Now, this is about the structure of proteins. Now, after the structure, the last topic in protein is the denaturation. Denaturation. What do you mean by that? As I told you, proteins are sensitive to, especially globular proteins. They are sensitive to, see, each protein has got a definite shape and definite biological activity. That's why it's called as native protein. Okay. Now, if you subject it to change in temperature, if you heat it or change the pH, what will happen is the hydrogen bonds are disrupted. When the hydrogen bonds are disrupted, they unwound. They will unwind. That is uncoil. That is they will split it. That globular will open up. Actually, globular water soluble will become fibrous, water insoluble. That is why we call it as coagulation or precipitation. Because they become water insoluble, they get precipitated. they cannot be biologically active then. They will lose their native. Okay, that is why it is called as denaturation. Denaturation. Best example is boiling of egg. When you boil egg, that white portion, it becomes hard. When it becomes hard, what is happening is that sequence is lost. That sequence is lost and the order is lost. Actually, the entropy actually increases. We think entropy decreases because it is becoming solidified. No, entropy increases. Okay, so denaturation means the hydrogen bonds are broken and globular will become fibrous, soluble become insoluble, and they get coagulation or precipitation of the globular protein, you call it as, and losing its biological activity, you call it as denaturation. For example, best example is curdling of milk. It is due to the formation of lactic acid. Okay, that will disturb all the hydrogen bond. That is why it becomes curd. Milk will become curd. It will separate out. Okay, so that is denaturation. That is, sometimes it is, most of the times it is irreversible, but sometimes it is reversible. If it is reversible, they can retain their proper hydrogen bonds and like that. That is called as renaturation. That is also observed in few cases, but most of the cases it is denaturation only. They will lose their biological activity. The protein is lost. Okay, but that process is also helpful, like curdling of milk or when you boil egg. Okay, so that is also useful. That is called as denaturation. So this completes proteins. Okay, now vitamins, hormones you don't have, we'll do nucleic acids. Nucleic acids. For this I need both of you to take a paper and pen and write the structures. I am going to teach you the structures, which is very important, very important. You need to know the structures. Now, nucleic acids, again they are biopolymers, biomolecules which are polymers. Okay, so you know that hereditary characteristics are transferred from one generation to another in every species. The nucleus of the cell is responsible for this, and in the nucleus there are particular molecules or parts called chromosomes which are responsible for the carrying the hereditary characteristics. These chromosomes, they contain two parts. One is protein part. They contain protein part, sequence of amino acids. The other is called as the nucleic acids. So nucleic acids are present in chromosomes which are present in nucleus of the cells, each cell. Okay. Now we are going to study what are nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are also biopolymers. That means, what is the monomer? What is the monomer? Monomer is the what is known as the nucleotide. Write down this. Monomer is the nucleotide. That means nucleic acids are polynucleotides. Polynucleotides. That means nucleotides join condensation polymerization again with the elimination of water molecules to form polynucleotides. Okay, like polypeptides. We have got polypeptides. No, like that. Okay, now we are going to study more about polynucleotides. Polynucleotides only, they are nucleic acids. Long chain will give you nucleic acids. So what are polynucleotides? If you hydrolyze them, hydrolyze them, you get three parts. You get three parts. One, you get a heterocyclic nitrogenous base. Two, you get a sugar molecule. Three, you get phosphoric acid. They are phosphate esters of this. I will explain that in detail later. So what are polynucleotides? If you hydrolyze every nucleotides. You take one nucleotide and you want to know what are the things present there. You will get three parts. One, you will have a heterocyclic nitrogenous base. Two, a sugar moiety. And three, a phosphoric acid molecule. So, I will explain each one of them in detail. So, first we will know what are the heterocyclic nitrogenous bases. Heterogeneous nitrogenous bases are of two types. One, purine bases, pyrimidine bases. Write down this. Purine bases and pyrimidine bases. There are two types of this. Okay. Now for the time being, to write the structure, I will erase this. Then I will again write. Okay. Purine and pyrimidine. Now I will write it. First, purine bases. Purine bases. There are two purine bases. They are called adenine and guanine. Adenine and guanine. A and G. What is adenine? Adenine, both of them have got this structure. Basic structure is this. Adenine and guanine. You have to know the names thoroughly. Adenine and guanine. Now what you do, you write one double bond, and wherever you have written the double bond, don't put hydrogen. Other side you put hydrogen. Here also, if you put double bond over here, put hydrogen over here. Okay. Then what you do, you write 3 bonds for this. You write 3 bonds for this. Okay. You write 3 bonds for this and write 1 NH2 over here. That's all. This is adenine. So, you write like this and the same structure in both. Here you write 1 double bond and you write 3 double bonds over here and you write NN over here. 3 bonds for nitrogen satisfied. All of them 3 bonds for nitrogen satisfied. In guanine, what is the difference? You shift this amino group here. You shift the amino group here and put double bond over here. When you put double bond over here, you put 1 bond here and 1 bond here. Okay, you can't put a bond here. If you put a bond here, this carbon will get 5 bonds. So you should not put a bond here. But this nitrogen will have 2 bonds. Put 1 hydrogen over here. Okay, so basically what you do for purine bases, this is the basic structure. This is the basic structure you should know. Purine bases. Now you put 1 double bond over here and 1 hydrogen. This is common. This portion is common to both adenine and guanine. Adenine you put like benzene, alternate single and double bond, and put NH2 amino group over here. Done. Adenine. For guanine, shift that NH2 here and put double bond over here and remove this double bond and put hydrogen over here. That's all. Write it. Write it. Both of you write in your notebook. I told you to keep one notebook. Did you learn? Both of you? Did you learn, kids? Done. This is adenine and guanine. Now, pyrimidine bases. Pyrimidine bases. Pyrimidine bases, there are 3. Because, see, nucleic acids, as I told you, nucleic acids are of 2 types. One, ribonucleic acid, deoxyribonucleic acid, RNA and DNA. Nucleic acids are of 2 types. One, RNA, ribonucleic acid, and deoxyribonucleic acids. They differ, as I told you, they will have nitrogenous bases, sugar, phosphoric acid. Okay? Both of them have all the 3. What is the difference? They differ in the nitrogenous bases. They differ in the sugar. I will tell you what they differ. Now, purine bases, these 2 are present in both RNA and DNA. But pyrimidine bases, they differ in one pyrimidine base. How to write? I will show you. Okay? That is why there are 3 pyrimidine bases. I will tell you which is present in RNA and which is present in DNA. For that, what you do, you write like this. Write 3 like this you write. This is the basic pyrimidine structure. Okay? You write like this. 3. Nitrogen here, nitrogen here. What you do then? You put double bond over here and double bond over here. Now, first what you learn is, don't put double bond over here. Put double bond O for all the 3. Put double bond O here for all the 3 you put. Okay? Now, for these 2, you put double bond over, double bond O here also. Okay? And you put one bond like this. So, you cannot put double bond here because it will become 5 bonds for this carbon. Put hydrogen over here. You can't put double bond over here because it will become 5 bonds for this carbon. Put another hydrogen over here. So, first for writing pyrimidine base, you write this structure. First write this structure. Okay? Then common is this double bond. This structure is common. Then for these 2, you put double bond over here. Okay? So, hydrogen, hydrogen. Same structure you write for both. Only difference is you put one methyl group here. So, this is uracil. Uracil. This is thymine. Uracil, this is thymine. So, methyl uracil is thymine. So, thymine is methyl uracil. One methyl group will be extra in thymine. Inside, this is called a cytosine. Cytosine. Cytosine, what you do? Instead of double bond O, put one NH2 over here. put this double bond O remains same. Instead of the top double bond O, you put one NH2 and you put one double bond here. But here you can put another double bond because this carbon can have 4. So you can't put double bond over here because this carbon will get 5 bond. Put hydrogen over here. That's so uracil will be double bond O, same structure, thymine also, except that you will have methyl group here. And cytosine, instead of double bond O, put NH2. So you can put one double bond over here because carbon can have 4 bonds. So if you put double bond also, it can satisfy that. So this will be uracil, thymine, cytosine. Now write all the 3. Kids, write all the 3. Without looking at the board, you write. It's easy. It's not that difficult. After you finish, you tell me. So, finished? Finished. Oh, 1 minute. Abhik is right. You just learn it today itself. One more time. You will get it. It's not difficult. See, our brain has got lot of capacity. We don't use it. That's all. You use it or lose it. If you don't use it, you lose it. Give your brain exercises like this. Done. Very good. So, how do you know which is present in what? Okay. So, DNA, you write all girls take chocolates. DNA, all girls take chocolate. That means adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine. Okay. In RNA, instead of thymine, you will have uracil. Instead of this, they will ask one more question. Which is the pyrimidine base present in DNA, present in RNA? Okay, so thymine and uracil, you remember, RNA, U. That means uracil is present in RNA. You replace uracil by thymine, you will get DNA. Understood? Yes. So, after learning this purine and pyrimidine bases, you will learn, as I told you, they will contain sugar moiety, cytosine. All girls take chocolate. Adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine. Okay. Now, sugar moiety. The sugar moiety present in both RNA and DNA is ribose. Beta D minus ribose. Okay. The structure of that is beta. So that means OH here, H here, OH here, OH here, CH2OH here. That's it. Write it. Write down the structure. OH here, H here, OH here, OH, and H you have to write. All the other H you have to write. Now, just missed the structures. Purine and pyrimidine bases we learned. You just missed it. Okay, you learn from sugar moiety. Very important. Go through the recording and learn the purine and pyrimidine bases structures. Now, sugar moiety present in both is ribose. beta D ribose. As I told you, beta means OH up. That we have learnt it in carbohydrates. So this will be OH up, this OH down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ribose, as I told you, it is a pentose sugar. It is a pentose sugar. 5 membered, 5 carbon atoms. So it will be, this is ribose. This is present in RNA, ribonucleic acid. In DNA, what happens? In DNA, same thing is present, but instead of on the second carbon atom, instead of OH, you will have H. This is the major difference. That means it is 2-deoxy. Deoxy means one oxygen less on the second carbon atom. 2-deoxy beta D ribose. That is why it is called as DNA. Deoxyribonucleic acid. Why it is called? Because it contains deoxyribose sugar. Whereas RNA will have ribose and DNA will have deoxyribose. So there are two differences between RNA and DNA. What are the differences? One is in the nitrogenous base. Uracil in RNA, thymine in DNA. Second difference, RNA will have ribose, DNA will have deoxyribose sugar. Another major difference is there. I will tell you when I do the structure, secondary structure. DNA is double helix structure, whereas RNA is a single strand. Very important. Okay, so that is the difference. So we learnt about nitrogenous base, we learnt about sugar and phosphoric acid. What is phosphoric acid? H3PO4. It is a tribasic acid. This is phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid. Did we learn the structure? Yeah, I think we learned the structure. Oxyacids of phosphorus. So this is phosphoric acid. It's a tribasic acid. 3 replaceable hydrogen atoms. So what happens? How they are linked? How they are linked, we have to see. Now we have learned the nitrogenous bases. We have learned sugar. We have learned. Third, we have learned the phosphoric acid. Now we know all the 3. Now the question is how to link. Now to linking, what happens? You take the sugar part. You take the sugar part. For example, DNA I will show. Now this is linked to nitrogenous base like this. N-glycosidic link. I will not write this structure completely. Any base, adenine, guanine, cytosine, uracil, whatever it is, that nitrogenous base. So here there will be a water molecule. See, here H is there, here OH is there. That will get removed. Condensation will happen and you will get N-glycosidic linkage. So you will have like this sugar. So you have sugar and you have the base. You have sugar and you have the base. Sugar and base linked together, it is called as a nucleoside. Nucleoside. Nucleotide means all the 3. Base, sugar, phosphoric acid. Base plus sugar, you call it as nucleoside. Okay, so they are linked with this nitrogen 1 of pyrimidine or nitrogen 9 of nitrogen of the pyrimidine base. They are linked. Okay, so you are numbering this also, this also. So they are given dash. For example, this will be C dash, C1 dash, C2 dash, C3 dash, C4 dash and C5 dash. Because you are numbering this also, number will get confused. So it is called C1 dash. So you will have nitrogen this. So nucleoside is what? Base plus sugar. You call it as nucleoside. So adenine plus sugar, you call it as adenosine. You have to remember this. Adenosine. Guanine plus sugar, you call it as guanosine. Okay. Thymine plus sugar, you call it as thymidine. SINE for purine bases. DINE for pyrimidine bases. Uracil plus sugar, uridine. Cytosine plus sugar, cytidine. Write down this also. So, adenosine, guanosine, thymidine, uridine, cytidine. These are all nucleosides. Nucleoside means without phosphoric acid. You have only sugar and base. That is nucleoside. So, nucleoside, you will have this. Now what happens? Then nucleoside will react with the phosphoric acid molecule. Where it will react? Here. As I told you, phosphoric acid is this. So, this hydrogen and this OH will go and you will have like this. Like this. So, you have base, sugar, phosphoric acid. Base, sugar, phosphoric acid. Again, I will tell you how they are linked again. Okay? How again? This is a nucleotide. This is a nucleotide. Nucleotide means base, sugar, phosphoric acid. Now what will happen? Another nucleotide will be there. Okay? They will again combine to form a dinucleotide. Like that the chain. How it is linked? It is linked from here. C3 dash of this will link with this CH2 of C5 of another. Again you will have base over here, sugar and this. This is called as diphosphoester linkage. Okay. So C3 dash of one will link with C5 dash of another sugar. So actually the linkage is sugar, phosphorus, sugar, phosphorus, sugar, phosphorus. That is the backbone. Sugar is linked to the bases. Bases will be here. Backbone is sugar, phosphoric acid, like that. So you will have, this is a dinucleotide. Dinucleotide means you will have base, sugar, phosphoric acid one, base, sugar, phosphoric acid another, with the elimination of water molecule. Everywhere water molecule is eliminated, condensation, polymerization. So you will have like this. So you will have a chain of sugar, phosphorus with bases linked to the sugar moieties. This is the structure of a polynucleotide. And they can also have one or more phosphoric acid. This can have another phosphoric acid. That is why you will have adenosine monophosphate, guanosine diphosphate, cytosine triphosphate, or deoxyadenosine monophosphate. That means it will be DNE, deoxyribose sugar, like that. So it can have monophosphate, diphosphate, triphosphate. 3 phosphate it can have maximum. Okay. So this is the structure of a nucleotide, polynucleotide. Okay. Here also you will have primary and secondary structure. Primary structure means to know the sequence. Okay. Secondary structure means how they are coiled. That is what. So here actually it is very tedious to write the entire polypeptide. It will be too huge. That is why you have so many short forms for writing the chain. That much you don't need actually. So you just know how they are linked. Okay. Now you will study the secondary structure. Okay, secondary structure, there is one rule. According to, there is Chargaff rule. Okay, according to this rule, he found that number of purine bases is equal to number of pyrimidine bases. He found that number of moles of adenine is equal to number of moles of thymine, number of moles of cytosine is equal to number of moles of guanine. That means number of purine bases is equal to number of pyrimidine bases in DNA. Okay, he found this. So always he found that A is linked to hydrogen bonded to thymine and cytosine is hydrogen bonded to guanine. This structure of DNA was discovered by Watson and Crick. It is called as Watson-Crick model, double helix model. Okay, they found the structure. They got Nobel Prize in 1962 for their structure, DNA structure. So there they found that there is a base pairing principle. Base pairing principle. That means bases they pair up. Like that only they pair. That means adenine will always pair with thymine. Cytosine will always pair with guanine. So adenine will pair up with thymine with 2 hydrogen bonds and cytosine will pair with guanine with 3 hydrogen bonds. This is very important point. A to T is 2 hydrogen bonds, C to G is 3 hydrogen bonds. Okay, so how that is the primary structure. Primary structure means what are the bases present to know that. Secondary structure is how the 3-dimensional structure is. So 3-dimensional structure, as I told you, RNA is a single strand, no problem. DNA has got a double helix structure. Double helix, actually I will have to write it with like this. It almost looks like this. Both are right-handed. Right-handed structures only. Okay. So, but one will have 3' end, another will have 5' end. That carbon, sugar moiety structure. So, both will have like this, and this backbone is sugar phosphate like that only. Sugar phosphate like that. And you will have, they will form in such a way that sugar phosphate will form the strand backbone and the nitrogenous bases are interior to the helix. So you will have adenine here, thymine here. They will form double bond. Again cytosine here, guanine here, triple bond. Like this. It will be like that. So nitrogenous bases are inside and the strand is made of sugar and phosphate. Like that. That will give you the double helix structure. Okay. So you have to just know this. That's all. And 2 important properties of this nucleic acid is, one is in the DNA replication. Very important. DNA replication. 2, very important, protein synthesis. Protein synthesis, biology students, they study in detail. Protein synthesis. Earlier we used to teach in detail, but now they have removed it. You just have to know, that's all. DNA replication, what it does is, you will have the strands like this. 2 strands, adenine, guanine like that. What will happen during cell division? It will, the hydrogen bonds, they break. You will have 2, they start breaking and one DNA strand will uncoil. It will become 2 strands like this. Okay. So you will have adenine, cytosine, guanine, thymine like this. Now according to the Baire pairing principle, it will produce another strand. It will produce another strand. Complementary. It is not identical. Complementary strands it will produce. Okay. So actually when DNA replicates, parent strand will be 1. Another strand is synthesized. That is why we don't resemble exactly our parents. It is called semi-conservative. Only one strand is from the parent. Other strand is synthesized in the body, the chromosomes. So it is called a semi-conservative. So finally you will get two different strands. This is what is DNA replication. It is the capacity to copy itself, produce two copies of itself, replicate itself. That is DNA replication or duplication. Okay. Now protein synthesis, this is a very complicated process. Okay. Protein actually synthesized by RNA. But the code, what are the code? That is, what are the bases to be done? It is the code is present in DNA. mRNA are of three types: messenger RNA, transfer RNA, ribosomal RNA. And all of them have got three different functions. It is actually very interesting to study proteins and quite a complicated structure. That transfer RNA will have a particular structure. It will bind the messenger RNA, go to that place, it will leave the code there, again come back, like that. It is a difficult process. So we are not studying protein synthesis in detail. Okay, then that will be asked in biology. For chemistry students, you are supposed to know the chemistry part of it. That is, what is a nucleotide? What is a nucleotide? It is a nucleic acid. It is a polynucleotide. What is a polynucleotide? It will contain a base, sugar, phosphoric acid. That is a nucleotide. Now, what are the bases present in RNA? Nucleic acids are of two types: RNA, DNA. They differ in the sugar moiety. Ribose sugar, RNA will have deoxy. Deoxy means on the second carbon atom, no oxygen. Deoxyribose sugar, DNA will have. And they also differ in nitrogenous bases. As I told you, all girls take chocolate. AGTC is present in DNA. Instead of thymine, you put uracil. AGUC is present in RNA. That you must know. And you must know the structure. Actually, structure was asked. Now it is 1 mark question. I don't know how they are asked. I'll just check the multiple choice questions. How it is asked, I'll just find out. So that you should know, and you should know what is a nucleoside. Nucleoside means base plus sugar. It is a nucleoside. If they give you adenosine, you should know that it is adenine plus sugar. Okay, like that. Then you will know sugar, ribose sugar, deoxyribose sugar, how they are linked, N-glycosidic linkage. Then you attach phosphoric acid. That will complete the nucleotide. Okay, on the fifth carbon atom. Then how two nucleotides are linked? Diphosphoester linkages. Okay, phosphodiester linkages. That you have to know. Then you will get that primary structure. Secondary structure also you should know. DNA and RNA, no problem. It is just a single strand. DNA you should know. The double helix structure. How they are paired and what are the bonds present in that, and what are the functions of the nucleic acid, DNA replication and protein synthesis. That's, if you know this, this completes nucleic acids. Understood, kids? Okay. I will just check the book back questions. If there are any book back questions, I will just check it up and then we'll finish it. Sugar we had done. How do you explain the absence of aldehyde group in the pentastate of D-glucose? That till that we had done. Okay. So you will have in text questions over here. Asked, the melting points and solubility in water of amino acids are generally higher than that of the corresponding halo acids. Explain. I have told you this. Why they are high melting points? Why they are high melting points? Why they are high melting points? Because they exist in the form of Zwitter ions, dipolar ions, and ionic solids have very high melting points. Okay, because of this dipolar structure, they have got very strong interionic interaction, dipolar interactions. Okay, whereas halo acids, they do not have the dipolar nature. That is why they have got high boiling. Where does the water present in the egg go after boiling the egg? Denaturation. Correct. It will undergo denaturation. They will coagulate. They will solidify, precipitate, and the water will get absorbed on that solid itself. And that solid itself, water will get absorbed. For example, anything you kept it out, any solid or anything you keep it out, it will absorb the moisture present in the air. Through hydrogen bonding, it gets absorbed. Like that. It will absorb all the water. Okay. Then you will have what products would be formed when a nucleotide from DNA containing thymine is hydrolyzed? So you are hydrolyzing a DNA, a nucleotide from DNA containing thymine. So what are the products formed? No, fingerprinting is not there. DNA fingerprinting is not there. Only this much. That's all. This question is from in-text question, from the textbook. So when you hydrolyze a nucleotide, what are the three you are getting? One nitrogenous base, one sugar, one phosphoric acid. Since you are getting from DNA, they have told, it contains thymine, it contains sugar deoxyribose, and it contains phosphoric acid. That you have to write. 3 units present after hydrolysis of DNA containing thymine. It will have thymine, correct. Very good, Bharadwaj. When RNA is hydrolyzed, there is no relationship among the quantities of different bases obtained. As I told you, in DNA, the quantities are same, purines and pyrimidines. What does this fact suggest about the structure of RNA? What does this structure say about, what does this information say about the structure of RNA? The question is, when RNA is hydrolyzed, there is no relationship among the quantities of different bases obtained. What does this fact suggest about the structure of RNA? See, if they have complementary bases, if there is base pairing, then number of purines will be equal to number of pyrimidines. Number of moles of purines is equal to pyrimidines. So since RNA does not contain any, when you hydrolyze, there is no relationship at all. That means quantities of purines and pyrimidines may be same, may not be same. That means to show, that says that unlike DNA, RNA is a single strand. There is no pairing there as such. If there is pairing, this has to be equal to that. If there is no pairing, each one can be independent. Okay, that is about in-text question. That's all. Okay, now what you have to do is answer the in-text, book back questions. Exercises you answer. Okay, but you learn you learn the chemistry part of it, like about glucose, structure of glucose. Yeah, almost over, big, almost over. I finished now. Biomolecules I have finished. Answer the book back. We will revise it after your exams. He said that you have exams next week, you cannot have classes, so we will answer them after your exam. Steve, next week all of them are having pre-board. You are also having pre-board? Why vitamin C, why it is not stored in the body is vitamin C is water soluble. It will be excreted in the urine. And hence he is asking, Abhi asked or Bharadwaj asked? Bharadwaj, you asked this question or Abhi asked? I saw the message. Steve asked. Yeah. Steve, it is, see, vitamin C is water soluble. It will be excreted in the urine. That is why it cannot be stored in the body. It has to be supplied in the diet. Okay, vitamins you don't have. Vitamins, hormones, enzymes, everything is deleted. You study carbohydrates, amino acids, proteins, and then you study nucleic acids. That's all. Okay, so that is and all deleted. So we will revise it. Same school. Okay, so even you can't attend next week, Steve. So we will do revision in the first week of November. At least it will help for your first term, and then we'll start with the second term portion. Is that clear? Okay. So we'll stop here because I have to do solid state. I'll do it on Friday. We'll finish off solid state on Friday, so that would have completed for first term properly. Any notes, anything you want, please message me. I will send the mail or I will send the scanned copy. Anything is fine for me. But I want all of you to do well. That's all. Steve, you should do well. You have missed so many classes. If you need any help, you call me. I am always available. Any doubt, you call me. Okay? Okay, kids. We'll continue on Friday. Bye.